What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Glass Less Traveled. My name is Mike Verivi, and I am the founder of the Fox Valley Whiskey Society and your host here at the Glass Less Traveled. And today I have another top 5 list for you, and this time it is the top 5 bourbons to bring to the Christmas table. Now, a few weeks ago, I did the top 5 bourbons for Thanksgiving, and pretty much everybody else that has a bourbon channel on YouTube also did a top 5 list of bourbons that you should bring to the table for Thanksgiving. And likewise, everybody's probably going to have a list of top 5 bourbons to bring to the Christmas table. So this is my list, but my list generally is a little bit different because my list is generally things that are a little bit more attainable and a little bit more realistic. If you're anything like me, you actually don't drink bourbon throughout the entire meal on Christmas. And if you're anything like me, you generally tend to drink bourbon at the very end, at dessert, when you're all sitting around the table or when you're opening up gifts or however you do it. So this list is kind of aimed more towards that because I don't have my thirst satisfied by bourbon when I'm eating turkey or ham or anything that's loaded with sodium. I tend to drink water, sometimes soda, or sometimes I'll have a glass of wine. I tend to stick to liquor after the meal. So these are not going to be bourbons that you're going to drink throughout the entire meal because I find that to be pretty unrealistic. So this is going to be after the meal when you're hanging out with family. And the first bourbon on this list, because I don't want to wait too long, Wild Turkey. Obviously, Wild Turkey is going to be on the list. It was on my list for Thanksgiving as well, for obvious reasons. Wild Turkey is an absolutely fantastic bourbon. It can be found pretty much everywhere. It's on every shelf at every liquor store across the United States. It ranges from about $17 up to maybe $25, depending on where you get it at. Some gas stations even have Wild Turkey. So in a pinch, if you're coming to Christmas and you need something to bring real quick, go out and grab a bottle of Wild Turkey. The high rye profile pairs really, really well with most of the things that you're probably going to be eating on Christmas. I don't know what you guys eat for Christmas lunch or dinner, but generally we have a tendency to stick to the traditional, almost Thanksgiving style meal of turkey and ham and mashed potatoes and things like that. So Wild Turkey pairs really well, and it's super, super affordable. So Wild Turkey is an absolute standby, an absolute must at Christmas. Next one up, and I had the counterpart on my top 5 for Thanksgiving, Old Forester 1910. Now I had 1920 on the list for Thanksgiving. 1910 is a little bit mellower. It does have a little bit more of a smoky profile. It has a little bit more of an oaked profile to it. You tend to get those wood notes a little bit more in there than you do the 1920. And the reason I went with the 1910 is because it's Christmas time. You're with all your family. You want to bring something a little bit more special. 1910 generally is a little bit harder to find than the other 4 in the Whiskey Row series, that being 1870, 1897, 1910, and then 1920, which is behind me somewhere over here. This one tends to be a little bit harder to find, generally in the $50 to $60 range. It has an absolutely fantastic flavor profile to it. It is double oak, so it does have a lot more of those wood characteristics. And it only comes in at 93 proof. So it is something that even if you have somebody at the dinner table or you know, whoever is in the family that maybe doesn't drink bourbon and wants to try it, it's a little bit more approachable for them. Now we're going to lead into 3 options that are a little bit less attainable, but again, it's Christmas. If you happen to have this stuff on the shelf near you, or if you happen to have it in your collection at home, why not bring it? And going into the top 3, Eagle Rare. Eagle Rare is an absolutely fantastic bourbon. I used to have a different opinion on this bourbon. Thought it was very, very overrated. I went through a bottle and I didn't really care for it. Something in my palate changed, and I really, really love this bourbon now. I live in South Carolina. I'm fortunate enough to live just south of the North Carolina border, where I can go into North Carolina, which is a control state, and I can find this stuff pretty regularly on the shelf for around $40. So kind of getting price gouged, but it's a lot better than in Illinois, where sometimes you see this stuff for 60, 70, 80, even sometimes $100. Just the bottle itself just kind of screams elegance, so it's really great to have at the dinner table, something that you can put on the counter. It's really, really approachable at 90 proof. It looks fantastic. It drinks fantastic. It's a really, really beautiful bourbon. And it is one of those things that some people at the dinner table may say, oh, I've never had that before. That's really interesting. It's something that I've always wanted to try. And here you are, and you brought it. Number 4, And this one is almost empty. Now, I know what you guys are probably going to think. Oh my God, you need to decant that into a smaller bottle, or you just need to go ahead and finish it off. Russell's Reserve. And as you can see, there's barely anything left in here. I just bought this bottle like a week and a half ago, so I'm not really too concerned about this. Russell's Reserve is in the Wild Turkey family. Now, my number one bourbon for Christmas is obviously going to be Wild Turkey. This being in the Wild Turkey family, Russell's Reserve, Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey, single barrel, 55%, 110 proof. This is one of my absolute favorite bourbons. Russell's Reserve to me always has that note of like Dr. Pepper or cherry cola, stewed fruits, lots of cinnamon, and then of course that wonderful wild turkey funk that we all love. That's kind of like I describe as almost like walking into an old antique store. Russell's Reserve is something that's absolutely fantastic to bring to the table, right around $50 to $60 per bottle. If you can find a store pick of Russell's Reserve, even better, but those are becoming fewer and farther between. But that's going to be my number 4 is Russell's Reserve. And number 5, an absolute standby for me, one that I really kind of fell in love with after it came out. And that is Maker's Mark 101. Now, you can bring this to the table and people are going to see the bottle, they're going to see the wet wax, and they're going to think, oh, I know that bourbon. That's Maker's Mark. I've had Maker's Mark before. This is classic Maker's Mark, just done at 101 proof. So it's a little bit higher in proof. It's a little bit bigger. It's a little bit bolder, but it still has those beautiful soft wheat characteristics, those beautiful cherry notes, those fruit notes that just notes that really pair well with a dessert, like a bread pudding or a creme brulee. Something that's really easy to sip after you open presents. And you see all the little kids running around throwing all their wrapping paper around. If you're anything like my family, you wrinkle it up into a ball and you just start throwing it at each other. So that's my top 5 list. Again, I just wanted to get through it real quick because I know you guys don't like watching these videos all the way to the end. So that's my top 5 list. Why don't you guys go ahead and comment down below what your top 5 for Christmas is. Go ahead and watch my last video, my top 5, which was for Thanksgiving, and don't forget to subscribe. Everybody have a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year, and hopefully 2022 doesn't suck as much as 2021 and 2020 did. Cheers, guys.